Union Minister Hardeep Puri is under fire. He is into massive controversy. Controversy is because of his mails to Jeffrey Epstein. And we don't need to tell you how to do that or something to that effect. In fact, this was a statement. Let me read it clearly. Have fun. Not that you need any encouragement for that. What does this convey you? So what do I tell my daughter? That my minister, the person who is representing my country, the person who represents my government, is a person who takes favor from a serial rapist, a serial sex offender? What do I tell my son? Hardeep Puri is not a common man. He represents me. He represents India. What do I tell my daughter? Do I tell my daughter that this minister who represents you, who represents India, has taken favors from a sexual offender? Who has raped, who has sexually assaulted 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 15-year-olds? Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Editorial. Union Minister Hardeep Puri is under fire. He is into massive controversy. Controversy is because of his mails to Jeffrey Epstein. So before we discuss Hardeep Puri, his mails to Jeffrey Epstein, his emails to Jeffrey Epstein, and why did he write those emails to him, and so on and so forth, let's take a step back and talk about this man called Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a human trafficker. He was booked for promoting prostitution. He was booked for sexually assaulting minors. He was not booked now. He was booked way back in 2008. You see, Jeffrey Epstein was not somebody that nobody knew. I mean, maybe in India people didn't know him much, but in United States a lot of people knew about Jeffrey Epstein. He was pretty infamous, by the way. Jeffrey Epstein was a person who was a serial pedophile. Serial pedophile. He would pay $200 to kids like this that you see on the screen. And the reason why we are showing these pictures is because these pictures are of kids now, of course, grown-up women who have come out in the open and spoken about it. These were kids, 14-year-old, 15-year-old. When Jeffrey Epstein would give them $200, use their situations they were under, give them $200 and sexually assault them. This was Jeffrey Epstein. And it is not 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100,000. It could be, the number is huge. The number is huge. You see, this country called the United States of America, which teaches the world morality and gives us civic lessons and all of that, this country had actually protected Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein, when he actually got, when two kids went on to the FBI in 1996 to complain against Jeffrey Epstein for sexual assault, FBI didn't take their complaint. In fact, first they went to New York police. New York police says, "Hamara jurisdiction nahi hai." So typical. We have heard it so often. New York police said that "Ye hamara jurisdiction nahi hai. It is not our jurisdiction." They went to FBI. FBI registered the case. Nothing happened. This is United States law and order, by the way. For a lot of people who swear by, how things are great in the US. Now, the fact remains that even after all of this, in 2008, when finally, because of a daring commissioner of police of Palm Beach in Florida, because of him, when he was finally brought to books, even then, the system protected him. The system protected Jeffrey Epstein. And Jeffrey Epstein got away with them 13 months. 18 months was his sentence and 13 months he got away. And that too, this 13 months, mind you, where he was put behind bars, that bar, you hardly call it a jail because it was a private room with television and comfortable bed and all that. When he could visit anybody could come and visit him, like some 5-star hotel, not 5-star actually, maybe a not so good hotel. Anybody could come and visit him, and he was only in that prison for 12 hours in a day. for 6 days a week. So 12 hours for 6 days in a week, he could go out. He could go wherever he wants. He could do whatever business he wants. He could do whatever more sexual assault he wants, and he would come back in the jail. 12 hours. And he didn't complete his 18 months sentence. He was out after 13 months. That too, like I said, 12 hours. 12 hours he was inside the luxurious prison, and 12 hours he was outside doing whatever he wanted. This is American law and justice, for starters. So let us also understand that. So this was Jeffrey Epstein. Americans knew it. There were people who were protesting. There were people who were writing against him. Jeffrey Epstein, in fact, talking about writing against him, Jeffrey Epstein threatened an editor who was doing a story on him and his sexual assaults. He threatened him. The editor had a bullet outside his house when they were supposed to publish the story. So this was Jeffrey Epstein. Hundreds and hundreds of girls tortured, threatened. Women had to flee out of United States. Some went and settled in Spain, some went and settled in Thailand, some went and settled in UK. They had to flee because they were that scared of Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was the same guy who paid money to school kids in return of some sexual favors, and he would employ that school kids to get more school kids to come, and so that Jeffrey Epstein could abuse them. This was Jeffrey Epstein. Now, since we understood Jeffrey Epstein and we see the faces of those innocent kids, hundreds and hundreds of them that he abused, 14 to 15-year-old girls, like I told you, that he abused. Now let us talk about Jeffrey Epstein and Hardeep Puri. Hardeep Puri, in 2014, when he was writing to Jeffrey Epstein, was not a minister, but he was a retired IFS officer, Indian Foreign Service officer. Incidentally, the reason why he wrote, what we understand, is because he wanted a contact with Reid Hoffman. Reid Hoffman was the co-founder of LinkedIn. For starters, going to Jeffrey Epstein just to get connected with Reid Hoffman? No, Reid Hoffman is not like the king of the world and all that. He's a co-founder of LinkedIn. He's a big man, no doubt. But it's not that there are no people who can connect him. For somebody like Hardeep Puri, who was then the permanent member of United Nations for India, he could pick up the phone and speak to a Sundar Pichai or a Nadella, and possibly they could have arranged a meeting with Reid Hoffman, because I don't think Reid Hoffman was somebody who nobody on Earth, planet Earth, ever met. But no. Hardeep Puri decided to connect with Jeffrey Epstein to get this contact. Okay. You see, before we talk about Hardeep Puri and before we talk about what happened and why and all of that, let us understand, let us put this in perspective. Let me start by saying that on the face of it, there is nothing wrong legally. There is nothing wrong legally that Hardeep Puri has done. Nothing wrong. Especially from an Indian perspective, and as of now, from even an American perspective. He has not done anything wrong legally. There are no proofs that he was traveling with Epstein. Even if it was, I don't think that too is illegal. If he was traveling with Epstein or he has visited Epstein's palatial mansions, of course, there were some mails which spoke about him wanting to meet Epstein, and Epstein address and all that was given to him for their visit. That's a different thing. But all the same, there is no such allegations that he had, used Epstein's premises for partying or anything of that sort. So that is not there. So let us be very clear about it. The point is, Hardeep Puri is not a common man. Hardeep Puri represented India. He represented India in the United Nations. He represents India as our minister today. This Hardeep Puri asked a favor from a serial sexual offender, possibly one of the biggest sexual offenders in the world. He asked for favors. I heard some journalist saying, there are two individuals. One is, this sexual offender, that is Jeffrey Epstein, the sexual offender. And secondly, there is this another Jeffrey Epstein, who is a broker, power broker. So, one may need his services to get things done. My question is, if, like I said, Hardeep Puri was a common man, it's okay. Hardeep Puri is not a common man. He represents me. He represents India. What do I tell my daughter? Do I tell my daughter that this minister who represents you, who represents India, has taken favors from a sexual offender? Who has raped, who has sexually assaulted 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 15-year-olds? This minister has taken favors. This minister has written saying that, have fun. And we don't need to tell you how to do that or something to that effect. In fact, this was a statement. Let me read it clearly. Have fun. Not that you need any encouragement for that. What does this convey you? What does this convey to you? This conveys to you familiarity. You don't joke with a stranger saying that, "Arey, you to are having solid fun and all." Do you do that to a stranger? No. You do that to a person who you know. And most importantly, you know what? Would you do that if you don't approve of what that man is doing? Would you do that? Would you tell a drug addict, "Arey, have fun, drug addict, arey, have fun"? You won't. You won't. And that's precisely my question. If Mr. Hardeep Puri, which by the looks of it, he may deny it, I don't know, I have no proof, but by the looks of it, to my mind, in my opinion, he definitely knew what was happening. He knew what was happening in Jeffrey Epstein's mansions. He knew what was happening. This is what I would think. Because the whole world knew, at least the American people knew. So, somebody of Hardeep Singh's stature wouldn't know. This is what I would think. And the fact that he writes and says, you don't need encouragement, we know, have fun. What does that mean? So what do I tell my daughter? That my minister, the person who is representing my country, the person who represents my government, is a person who takes favor from a serial rapist, a serial sex offender? What do I tell my son? Oh, you know what? काम निकालने के लिए ना कुछ भी करना पड़ता है. काम निकालने के लिए if you got to get work done, then yeah, no problem. Go ahead and use. So what if he is sexual offender? You see, he is 2%. 2%. One is sexual offender, 1%. Second person is very influential person. So you can use the influential person. The first person is okay. Is that what I tell my son? If that's okay with our society, then this is all fine. Like I again say, Hardeep Puri has committed no crime. Hardeep Puri must have never gone on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. Two reasons. Why? Because Hardeep Puri was not that big for Jeffrey Epstein. He had huge fishes to fry. He had people like Bill Clinton. He had people like Donald Trump as friends. So maybe even now, he wouldn't have been important for somebody like a Jeffrey Epstein. That's one. Secondly, I don't think Hardeep Puri would have been entertained by Jeffrey Epstein. I don't think all of that happened. But my question is not legal. My question is moral. This is a question Mr. Hardeep Puri has to ask himself. He has to ask himself. And as far as I am concerned, as an Indian, this is not about politics. Because actually speaking, I had a lot of respect for Hardeep Puri. I had a lot of respect because he was very educated. He was well articulated. He was somebody who held very important positions for the country. So to that extent, I thought he was a very deserving minister. That's what I understood about Hardeep Puri, and I was very disillusioned, very disappointed to hear what happened. And most importantly, I refuse to believe that all this is, he was naive, he didn't know. This is my point of view. Again, I say it could be right. I could be right. I could be wrong. You are the judge. I'm sure the people of India can judge it. But I believe that to say that I didn't know anything, I didn't know that he was, that bad. I thought everything was false. I heard it, but I didn't believe it. All this I do not agree to. Because somebody who says, have fun because you don't need any encouragement for that, somebody who says that knows what he is talking about. So I kind of look at it from that perspective. The question I ask tonight to you is, are you okay? Are you okay if your representative for your country has had relationships with serial sexual offenders, even if that sexual offender is two personalities, morning he is one, evening he is different, morning he is a power broker and evening he is a sexual offender, even that personality is, there are dual personalities, do you think you would like your public representative, the minister in your country, to be once having a relationship? I'm not saying that he had any relationship or any contacts or any communications with him after he took over as a minister, but even before. Are you okay with that? Because even before he was representing India. Are you okay with that? If you're okay with that, then this is all perfectly correct. Because then, like a lot of people say, he had taken no favors. He has not done anything which is legally incorrect. There are no photographs of his. So everything is fine. Sab changa si, everything is fine. But if you find it difficult to align to the fact that your public representative, your minister, who was once upon a time your representative in the United Nations, if that particular gentleman has links and uses favors from a serial sexual offender, if that hurts you and you can't align with that, then you decide. I can't align with it. And that is why I raised my objection. Rest, of course, it's about Mr. Puri and his political party to decide. Till I see you next time. That's tomorrow at 10. Namaskar.